Hello everyone, I welcome you once again. We were discussing the 11th chapter of history from Integrated Social Science Ratnasagar, the Gupta and the post Gupta period. This video is the third video and the concluding video also related to this chapter. Till now, we have already discussed about the Gupta period, the historical background, and we have discussed how the most powerful rulers, the Gupta rulers, Chandragupta I, Samudragupta, and Chandragupta II, expanded their territory. And we also discussed about the later Guptas, Kumaragupta and Skandagupta, during whom the Gupta Empire was threatened by the Hunas of a uh, tribal group from Central Asia, and how the Gupta Empire came to an end because of those tribal group of Central Asia. And then we turned into Harshvardhan, and the reason behind the establishment or upsurge of Harshvardhan in the northern part of the country was basically the breakup of the Gupta Empire and a period of disorder when small kingdoms were fighting against one another and finally conquered those small kingdoms and established a powerful empire. And the kingdoms that emerged during the period of disorder were the Maitrakas of Vallabhi, Hunas in Punjab, the mockeries of Kannauj, and Yashovarmans of Malwa. Okay, so Harshvardhan conquered these kingdoms and established the powerful empire in the northern direction. Coming on to when there was the rule of Harshvardhan in the northern part of India during 606 to 647 CE, Pulakesin II, the Chalukyan king, was ruling in the Deccan part of India, and his ruling period was 608 to 642 CE. So, the kingdom of Harsha was dominant in the north, and the Chalukyas ruled in the Deccan, and the Pallavas were powerful in the south. And in this video, we'll be discussing about the next two kingdoms, the Chalukyan kingdom and the Pallavas. Basically, the Chalukyas of the Deccan and the Pallavas of the powerful kingdom in the south in this particular module. The period between 300 to 750 CE marks the second historical phase in the regions south of the Vindhyas. And by the beginning of the 7th century, the Pallavas of the Kanchi, the Chalukyas of Badami, and the Pandyas of Madurai emerged to be the three major states in the southern region, basically the region towards the south of the Vindhyas. And in the northern part, means in northern Maharashtra and Vidarbha Berar, the Satavahanas were succeeded by the Vakatakas, a local power. Let us try to understand this with the help of the map. Let us turn on to the next slide. We have already read about the Satavahanas also, that the Satavahanas, who were also known as Andhras, they ruled the Deccan for nearly 300 years, and we have also discussed that there were many powerful rulers, Satvahana rulers, like Shri Satkarani, Vasishti Putra Pullamai, Yajna Shri Satkarani, and Gautami Putra, the most powerful of them all. And the Satvahanas established a very powerful empire in this particular region, but continuous military conflicts, especially against the Shakas, however, gradually weakened them, and eventually the empire broke up into many smaller kingdoms. And After the decline of the Satavahanas, many small kingdoms arose in the Deccan, and the Vakatakas were the most powerful of these. They, however, ruled for a very brief period, and they were succeeded by the Chalukyas, whose capital was Badami. So, the Vakataka Empire was a dynasty that originated from the Deccan in the mid 3rd century CE, and their state is believed to have extended from the southern edges of Malwa and Gujarat in the north to Tungabhadra River in the south, as well as from the Arabian Sea in the west to the edges of Chhattisgarh in the east. Okay, and they were the most important successors of the Satavahanas in the Deccan. The Vakataka dynasty was a Brahmin dynasty. Okay, and we have also discussed something about the Vakataka kingdom when we were reading the Gupta kings, that Chandragupta too, he married his daughter Prabhavati with a Vakataka prince Rudrasena too, who believed to be the Brahman caste and ruled in the central India. Okay, we have already discussed about it in the previous module that Chandragupta too married his daughter Prabhavati with a Vakataka ruler. And with their support, they annexed Gujarat from the Sakas in 4th century CE. The Vakataka power was followed by that of the Chalukyas of the Badami in the Deccan. So the Chalukyas of Badami played an important role in the history of the Deccan and South India for about 2 centuries till 757 CE, when they were overthrown by their feudatories, the Rashtrakutas. And the most powerful Chalukyan ruler was Pulakesin II. Okay, the most powerful Chalukyan ruler was Pulakesin II. Now, talking about the Chalukyan ruler Pulakesin II, the source that gives us the information about this ruler is a Prashasti, and that Prashasti was composed by Ravi Kirti, who was his court poet. Okay, his court poet, and this Prashasti is written by Ravi Kirti, basically informs that Pulakesin too defeated Harshvardhan. We have already discussed about it in Harshvardhan, that Harshvardhan tried to march southwards and to conquer more territories and to establish his empire further, but he was somehow stopped by this Chalukyan king Pulakesin II. Pulakesin II, the Prashasti also informs that Pulakesin II raided the territories of the Pallavas as well, and he defeated the Pallava king Mahendra Varman I. This Prashasti informs that Pulakesin II raided the territories of the Pallavas and defeated the Pallava king Mahendra Varman I too. Pulakesin II also sent an embassy to the court of Khusro II, the king of Persia, to strengthen the ties of friendship between the two kingdoms, and the Chinese pilgrim who visited during Harshvardhan, because he was still there in India, as I have already told in the previous module, that he spent almost 15 years in India, and uh, out of those 15 years he spent 8 years in Harshvardhan's court. So Hind Sang during his stay in India, visited the court of Pulicasin too also, and he was very much impressed with the administration. And when we talk about the decline of the Chalukyas became weak after the death of Pulicasin too, and they were replaced by the Rashtrakutas. But Pulkesin too was not the last Chalukyan ruler. Okay, it is clearly mentioned that the Chalukyan dynasties became weak after the death of Pulkesin too. But uh, the Chalukyan dynasty basically declined during the rule of the last Chalukyan ruler Kirtivarman II, who was defeated by Danti Durga, the founder of Rashtrakuta dynasty. We'll be discussing about Danti Durga and this Rashtrakuta dynasty not in class 6, we'll be discussing about him in class 7. Okay, so the Chalukyan Empire came to an end by the defeat of Kirtivarman II, the last Chalukyan ruler, by Danti Durga, the founder of Rashtrakuta dynasty. Okay, and the Chalukya became weak after the death of Pulkesin too. Okay, coming on to the Pallavas. I think in this particular map it is very much clear the region of the core area of the Pallava dynasty. The Pallava dynasty was an Indian dynasty that existed from 275 Common Era to 897 Common Era, ruling a portion of southern India. And they gained prominence after the eclipse of the Satvahana dynasty, whom the Pallavas served as feudatories. The Pallavas became a major power during the reign of Mahendravarman I, who ruled between 600 to 630 CE, around 600 to 630 CE, and Narsimhavarman I, who ruled around 630 to 668 CE. And right now, when we were discussing the Chalukya dynasty, we discussed that Pulkesin II, okay, was defeated by the Pallava king Narsimhavarman I, okay, who later captured Vatapi. So Narsimhavarman I defeated Pulkesin II, the Chalukyan king, and captured Vatapi. As you can see in this particular map, the location of that particular region, Vatapi. And because he captured Vatapi, after this victory, Narsimhavarman I took the title of Vatapi Konda, which means the conqueror of Vatapi. And not only this, Narsimhavarman I also led successful expeditions to Sri Lanka as well, but continuous military conflicts weakened the Pallavas. Throughout their reign, they were in constant conflict with both the Chalukyas of Badami in the north and the Tamil kingdoms of Chola and Pandyas in the south. And Pallavas were finally defeated by the Chola ruler Aditya I in the 9th century. The rule of Pallavas ended by the Cholas in the 9th century. Because the name of the Chola ruler is not mentioned in the book, I am mentioning it here, that the Chola ruler who defeated the Pallavas was Aditya I, and the Pallavas were defeated by the Chola king Aditya I in the 9th century. Now let us turn on to the administration system of the period. We'll be discussing the administrative system during the Gupta and post Gupta period. So we get to know about the administrative system from the accounts of Fa and Yunsang. So the head of the administration was the king, and he was assisted by a council of ministers. The empire was divided into provinces, also known as bhuktis, and princes were often appointed as the governors of these provinces or bhuktis and were assisted by many officers. The provinces were further divided into districts which were also known as Vishayas. The provinces were further divided into districts which were known as Vishayas, and these districts were administered by the Ayuktas. They were also there was also a district council in each district which helped in administering the district. And the lowest administrative unit was the village. Village was the lowest administrative unit, and it was looked after by the elders of the village. There were two local assemblies also, the Ur and the Sabha. Okay, so there were two local assemblies, the Ur and the Sabha. The Ur was a village assembly found in areas of southern India where the land owners were not Brahmins, and the Sabha was the local assembly of basically there were Brahmin land owners. Okay, so the Sabha was the assembly of Brahmin landowners, and the Ur was the assembly of uh, the landowners who were not Brahmins. So let us move on to the next slide and find out what was the main source of revenue collection as well, and what was the main occupation of the people during the Gupta and the post Gupta period. So the main occupation of the people was agriculture, and the and there were different sources of revenues also. Agriculture was the prime source of revenue, and these revenue were collected by the revenue officers. Land tax was also one of the sources, and merchants and craftsmen also paid taxes during Gupta and post Gupta period. And whatever money was collected from the revenue and the taxes, the money was spent on ensuring good administration, giving grants and donations, and for maintaining army as well. To maintain an army, because army not only consists of the soldiers, it consists of the horse, the elephants, the chariots as well, and the foot soldiers also they required a lot of money. Okay, so the main occupation of the people was agriculture, and the revenue was collected from agriculture, land. Okay, the merchants and craftsmen also paid taxes, and whatever money was collected, that was spent on ensuring good administration, giving grants, and maintaining army. Now, during the Gupta and post Gupta period, new developments took place in administration, and there were three new developments. The first one was the decentralization of administration. Okay, when I'm talking about decentralization of administration, in this case, in this development, local officers were independent of central control, and they took decisions on their own. Okay, and whatever the decisions may be, all the decisions were taken by the local officers, like making roads, providing water, or whatever else. The second development that took place was regarding the salary payments. The officers were paid through land grants. They were not paid in cashes. Okay, the salaries to the officers were not paid in cash. The officers were paid through land grants, and the officers were supposed to collect revenue and submit a part of it to the ruler as well. Coming on to the third development that happened, that took place during the Gupta and the post Gupta period, was the administrative positions became hereditary this time, during this period. The positions, the administrative positions became hereditary, and these positions were was and these positions can be taken over by the son of the officers whosoever were there on that particular position. Okay, so administrative positions became hereditary. The positions were basically, in this particular development, son succeeded his father. Okay, and the son can succeed to the post held by his father as well. Now, these developments that took place were having some merits and some demerits as well. The merits regarding the new developments were: the system of administration became very smooth and started running without any dispute or quarrel, and there was less hierarchy and quick decisions could be taken. And on the other hand, the demerits were because uh, the administrative officers were paid in land grants, and they were given all the decentralization happened, and the officers were expected to collect revenue from this land, from the land. This made them even more independent. Whenever there was a weak ruler at the center, they broke away from his control and declared themselves independent. Okay, so these were the demerits. There were demerits also of these particular new development that took place during this period. Most officers, being almost independent, turned to collect more money from the people, and in a situation where the ruler was weak, these local officers declared themselves independent and broke away his control. Okay, so these were the demerits of the administration. Basically, the merits and demerits generated during the new development in administration. And with this, I come to an end of the chapter. Let us recapitulate what we have read in this particular module. The Chalukyas ruled from Vatapi in the Deccan, and Pulkesin too was the most powerful ruler. He defeated Harshvardhan and Mahendravarman I also. The Pallavas ruled from Kanchi, and Mahendravarman I and Narasimhavarman I were very powerful Pallava rulers. The empire was divided into provinces, districts, and villages, and many new developments took place during this particular during this period, and the administration was decentralized. Some administrative posts became hereditary, and officers were paid through land grants. With this, I call it a day. I will be coming back with a new video series of the next chapter of the portion, and we'll be discussing India climatic conditions soon. Do read the topics first and then watch the video. Till then, have a nice day.